Hello, and welcome to the Anonkun Community Podcast, your primary source for quest-related discussion. How about, you all introduce yourself, starting with Alerni at the top and going down.
I'm Alerni. I haven't run anything. I might run something eventually. That's about all you need to know. I just read quests I have for a while.
I'm Boop to Boop on Anonkun, going by Blip here. I've run a few somewhat failing smut quests on Anonkun. Most well known of which is probably Filthy Smut Adventure.
Isn't that like several years dead?
Yeah. It's still probably the most well known though.
All right, and my name is Ko. I've written quite a bit of fan fiction under various names. It's all embarrassing, so I'm not going to talk about it. As far as questing goes, I'm most known for Scholomance Quest, Pirate Quest, Celtic Quest, and a variety of shitpost meme quests about waifuing Imperial Kant.
And
Can I just say I hate you for that last thing?
Full disclosure, I didn't start that meme, but I fully encouraged it.
You should still be ashamed.
I'm not.
But you basically made it what it is.
If you expect me to feel shame about turning an 18-year-old male Australian, virgin into the waifu meme love target for all of Anonkun, you're gonna wait a long time.
I fucking hate you for that shit.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, that's not something you should be ashamed of, but still gonna hate you for it. Yeah.
During the first week, I asked Kant if he wanted me to stop. I said I would, and he said no. Go ahead. So I have his blessing for all of my shit posting.
So it's all his fault then.
Yeah, sure. Let's blame him. Blame the
You're
victim.
entirely absolved of guilt. It's all on him.
Yeah, sure. Let's go.
And I am your host, SPUDS of the Apocalypse. I will probably run something in the very near future, but I have not done that yet, in spite of having been reading quests for 10 years or whatever. Almost. Not quite. In any case, today's topic is what can you do wrong when starting a quest? Beyond, the obvious thing, starting a quest being wrong in and of itself, what sort of mistakes do you commonly see in both others' quests and your own that ruin the overall potential of possibly otherwise decent quests?
Kerrigan was a mistake.
Pretty much everything that we'll see in your quest, buds. That's about everything you can do wrong.
Well,
I mean,
I don't have Shardian. That's something at least.
Oh, I guess that is something. Also, MMD wants on the podcast, I think.
Well, since E showed up for 5 seconds and then left completely, I guess I could probably get him on. We're too few here, in any case. Sure. You're on, MMD.
Cool.
Thank you. Wait a bit.
And here's MMD. He's Russian. He just translates the quest. He doesn't actually run it. But he's been on here several times anyway, because we have no standard.
2 times actually. 2 times to be exact. And
this would be the third one.
Yes, this is the second one. And I'm actually quite a bit interested in today's topic, I'd say. And I wanted to participate in a podcast with Blip.
Well, hit us with your hot opinions then.
Character generation, most types of character generation.
Yeah.
What is?
I mentioned that earlier as a meme, but I fully agree with that.
Well, what is?
Character generation is one of these things that it can be done well. Will you do it well? Probably not, but it's possible.
It's
Well,
very possible, and there are two good examples that are commonly thrown around. Both Joker Quest and A Tale of Witches both have done it well. The thing is that doing it well is very difficult, and even if you try to copy what they do, there is a good chance that you will not do it well either.
Well, hasn't Joker Quest been a fucking shit show for the first part?
No, it's not a shit show. It's pretty good for the start.
It's well liked by the people who like the kind of thing it's going for. So,
well, I only read Trick's review of it, and it wasn't very.
Well, Trick is
Trick.
human junk.
The thing with the start of Joker is that if you know what you're getting into, or if you like what you're getting into, it is a very good start, and it carries on well until when it gets really interesting. But if you don't like that, then you are going to have a horrible time with the start and not get to the interesting parts. Basically, I had joined in shortly after the start, and I had known it was basically a mix of C and Excel world. So I was looking forward to what I had gotten until it swapped over to everything else.
You touched on an important point there. The mistakes and advice really depends on what you're trying to do. Because what would be a mistake if you were aiming for, a quest with a huge reader base might not be a mistake if you were trying to go for, just a hit of notoriety.
I mean, sure, but I think, for an example, having players that are invested, even if there aren't very many of them, is something that all quests want, basically. Nobody wants people who make one post and then leave. And having and there are things about a start. Well, can you give an example?
Well, there is what was it? The Lamia Vagrant. Like, that was a QM doing what he wanted to do, which was cause a fuss and upset people. Is it a mistake if that's what you're aiming for?
Well, I mean, even he would have wanted people who actually cared about the results. Lamia Vagrant ended in the main character dying, I think, and people were really pissed off, and that was exactly what he wanted. He wanted players that were invested in the character, so that they would be fucking mad when she died.
Yeah, but if he wanted to make a quest that went on for 20, 30 threads, doing that would have been a mistake.
Creating high investment? Yep. I don't think so. I don't think pissing people off is
the bait
wrong
and
as
switch
such.
Of this is an adventure of the Vagrant. Oh no, it's not.
Actually, I have a good example for what you're talking about. MZ's whatever it is, Fag Quest, which is he was literally just shoving in every fucking cliche he could, but he did that because that it was exactly what he wanted. So there was really fucking terrible character generation.
Yeah,
and all of that involved because he just wanted something shit and he just ran with it.
I think one of the key aspects of just making any sort of good story is communicating clearly to your reader base, either by directly telling them through chat, which you can do with a quest, or in the summary or something, explaining what your quest is going to be about so that they have a decent expectation. If you're just making some meme shitpost quest, which I've done a number of times, and everybody understands that, your audience is going to be people who are looking for meme shitpost quests, and they're going to be happy when you do that.
Yeah, it's like, if you want something that people engage with positively, you want to be pretty open. You want to be obvious as to what you're doing. But you don't have to necessarily have like no mystery, but you want it to be clear that this is the kind of story I'm looking to tell.
Right, and one of the great ways that you can do that as a QM is by controlling write-in submissions from your reader base. If you're taking joke bullshit write-ins because it's a joke bullshit quest, that's fine. Again, I've done that. But if you take joke bullshit write-ins in a serious quest, it's going to lead to a non-serious tone and you're going to screw yourself over.
Well,
stole a man's character, and it was a mistake.
isn't that up to informing your player base from the start? I mean, do people
Yeah,
really
you can just say
do really people really do those sort of joke write-ins if you've clearly communicated the tone of the quest and made them invested in what happens to the characters?
Actually,
if you have
this
a
is
large enough reader base, yes, because you
Well,
will
are they
eventually
going to
attract
win?
trolls, which is a problem.
If
that
you're
I've
just
had.
on the front page of Anonkun, someone will wander in and make a joke
Yes.
right in.
Yeah, this is actually another
Yeah,
good
of
thing to
course.
touch on for this topic, actually.
But don't write-ins have a disadvantage in general? Would really a joke write-in win? Can you give an example?
it depends on the writing. It
Also,
really does.
I'd like to introduce our second co-host, who is 10 minutes late, like a fucking failure. Hello, E.
I stepped in. I was very tired, and then my internet cut out. It's
Great
only
internet.
slightly my fault.
Trey
Hi
Net
there.
is
Yeah.
literally wrong.
You missed out on getting to play joke quests.
Oh, did it run?
We did.
No,
We've done it now though. So
we were just talking about how it had good starting character generation,
Oh,
and I had
talked
feeling
about
how it started good.
I was mildly okay. That's fine. I can live with not speaking about Joker Quest once in my life.
Well, the topic
You are
anyway.
mumbler than ever today. Yeah, I can barely understand what you're saying.
I woke up 10 minutes ago.
Well,
and this
so
is the first place you thought of.
no,
I just immediately turned my computer on, of course, and then I have nothing better to do because I'm sad.
he's also
person.
supposed to fucking be here, you know. He's the host.
Yeah, that as well.
We're
Yeah,
all
that's
sad people. It's Friday night, and we're sitting in a chat room talking about
No,
quests.
I'm
Saturday
actually quite a
morning.
happy human being today, I'd say.
Nah, don't even try.
Well, I don't have to try. I just am.
Also, in Aussie land, this is early morning, so this is the first thing E1488
This isn't
does when he
early.
wakes
This is
up.
10 a.m.
Well,
It's 6 p.m. for me.
I don't know Aussie land. I just know you often do this just when you wake up.
I usually wake up like an hour before the podcast, not 5 minutes into the podcast. That's
Impressive.
usually what happens.
Impressive.
I mean, I had an alarm. I just slept through it the dozen times it went off.
Also, correction, 15 minutes.
Well,
don't
I mean,
underplay
I
your
got
latency.
up like 10. I probably got up 15 minutes ago actually, and then my computer took a bit to turn on, and then it was being a slow cunt. and then my
In
internet
spite of
fucked
this
up.
being at 10 a.m. where you are, this is the fourth time you've been late.
Spuds, you realize I'm really just generally pathetic, and I find it hard to wake up before 10. Yes, like
I find it
I
hard
was up
to
to
wake up
2
before
a.m.
1
last
p.m.
night. So, well, Jesus fucking Christ, MMD. It's not like 5 a.m. It's not quite the same thing. I try and get human hours. So
I have a home walk, so I mean I walk a home job. I mean, so I can wake up whenever I want to. Ha.
So you're a
Anyway.
glorified NEET then, huh? Get paid
Yeah,
for
fuck
being
yeah.
fucking useless cunt.
Fucking lucky cunt.
No,
I
I'm
got me
not useless.
That's all you.
Quite useful in my job. Anyway, moving on. What would you say is the right way to make a chargen? Well, I'd say that the only
character
good way
generation,
to
okay.
make a chargen, character generation, is to intertwine it with the story. You don't just jump all the options at the beginning of your quest saying, are you a male or a female? Are you that or that? Are you a warrior or a mage?
Yeah,
Whatever.
the wrong way to
What's
do
your
it is to
background?
just set it out as a RPG book chapter.
Oh,
Yeah,
that works
yeah.
so well
No.
for Paladin of Joy, though.
Generally, I'd also say the wrong way to do
unironically
it
did work
is to
well.
actually include explicit stats and powers before you've gotten into anything about your system.
So don't just drop a huge paste bin that explains your autistically detailed system, huh?
Yes, please don't do
Yeah,
that.
of course.
Well, if you do have an autistically detailed system, please dump the paste bin, because if it's going to take me 7 hours to read it, Yeah, I might as well start
Please
now.
don't have autistic
Yeah, just
systems.
dump it in
Please
the
don't
quest,
have any
you know?
systems at all. Please.
If you have an
Well,
autistic
don't.
system, post a paste bin and then leave it for like 12 hours. And,
Well, I mean,
run.
your system should ideally. We're straying from the topic, but in my opinion, ideally, the conflict resolution system for your quest should be incredibly simple. It should be something along the lines of, the traditional roll.
I actually
3d20.
disagree. I think that complex.
Of course you do.
Nah, I think it can work. I know several quests that worked, which have full now written systems. Like they've taken an RPG book and are running that solidly, and it works.
If you're running with a actual
It's usually
system,
slimmed
it
down.
better be slimmed down, or a lot of stuff should be behind screens. You should
Yeah,
not
of
have
course
people
you
rolling
should.
everything.
Of course, you should have it behind screens. The
Right.
DM should
Like,
be handling the actual numbers and the
mean
rolling
like,
and so on. Don't roll that on
There's
the
a notable
board.
quest that does that.
What?
Joker Quest. You mean Joker Quest? That has a autistic system behind the curtains.
Well, that's.
Yes, that is
But
exactly what I was getting at.
nobody can actually know if it does have that system. As far
says
as
it.
far as
Well,
we know, Joker
that's-
QM is just arbitrarily
right.
making decisions and pretending as if there's a system.
Sure.
That's the thing.
That's
Is
probably more
your system
autistic
has to
having
be in
autistic
the
system.
how you do
your
it.
system has to be in the open where the players can see it. Otherwise, you might as well not have it, because rolling behind a screen is just the same as making up numbers.
Yeah, no,
That's
I mean,
why DMs get a screen.
they should. It should, but they shouldn't. They should know whether or not a system is in use. They should be able to see that from how the game is being played. But a lot of stuff. But the players shouldn't roll for everything. I mean, that's just dumb. Because
No, I
it
agree.
slows down the pace of the game too much. The pace, not
What
the
do you mean by
game.
roll for everything?
Like, if you're using a real a real role-playing game system, there's going to be a lot of fucking rolls, because it's supposed to have 5 people who each want their spot in the limelight, you know. And in a quest, there's the players are only going to be in control of a character which has a small proportion of the roles at any given moment. So
Yeah.
Sure.
Like,
yeah, that makes sense.
When I started Pirate Quest, I actually, because it's set in a Pathfinder campaign setting that was conceived by a friend of mine, Nugar, who wrote People Eye and Naruto fanfic, I actually used Pathfinder rules. And I found very quickly that it was incredibly difficult. Combat took for fucking ever, and I eventually just swapped over to using a modified take 3d20 rolls from chat and move on, because it was just too much of a pain in the ass.
there
Yeah,
was
you need to either do that, or you need to use like a really simple system. Like I know that Exalted Quest on TG and Quest, it uses a simplified version of Exalted, where every person just rolls a single roll with each of their posts, and they just take them from the pool, because Exalted uses a pool system, which actually does work and doesn't slow things down, which was a really good idea in their case.
I actually think there
the
was
other two systems that work fairly well are dice pool systems, where again it's the same concept, where you're having 3 or so people from chat roll a specified number of dice based on a stat or something, or a d20 system that allows for certain tiers of successes, like Imperial Kant popularized. I really like that system.
I actually think there was a system there was a quest that used 3.5, which I actually liked like 6 or 7 years ago, called Doppelganger Damacy. And the way the QM did that was that he took directions on the overall strategy of the fight, and then he ran the entire combat behind the screen and wrote the whole thing up and posted it as a big thing into the thread. And that worked really well, in my opinion.
See, the thing is, if he's making all of the rolls behind a screen or whatever, I don't know, just me personally, I would lie constantly.
Yeah.
I
I
would
don't
too.
see a point,
that's
to be honest. I just don't see a point of doing that. Why? Just decide the outcome for yourself.
Well, in the
that's
that
It
quest,
makes no difference.
this is one of those things that again comes down to what do you actually want to do. If you want to do just write a particular story, taking ideas from people and having it progress in a
but
sort of
the
planned
thing
way,
the thing
then
about
you
that
do a narrative.
the thing
Then you
about
do it
that
narratively.
the, the thing about
do
that
it
story specifically is that it was reliant on
RPG.
mechanics. It was it was
if you want to do
entirely
something
based on
reliant on mechanics, if you want to make something that is a game, more a game than a narrative, then yeah, have fun with it. Throw some dice, whatever. It's
I guess
it's not really an error or the correct way of doing things question. It's a what do you want to do with it?
Yeah, this once again comes down to communicating exactly what you want out of your quest at the start.
You don't want to give
Yeah.
you don't want to give people the impression that you're running a narrative sort of focus thing when you actually want mechanics, because you want the people with the mechanical brains to be interacting with it. But and similarly, you don't want to give people the impression that you're doing something that they can power game if you're just making it up as you go along. It's communication.
I feel like mechanics still serve a useful role even if you're trying to tell a narrative story, because rolling dice does, in my opinion, two very important things. One of which is it introduces the possibility of failure. You can fail at a task, and that interjects drama because there's now risk involved. You don't just know that you're going to succeed, because in theory the quest could end at any time because the QM gets bored. It's not like a book where you can say, I've got 120 pages left. There's no way. And the other important thing that I think mechanics and dice rolling do is it takes the blame off of the QM if something bad happens. You want bad things to happen to your characters because that's how drama happens. Drama is reading about bad things happen to people that you like. But
I would argue with that, but
I completely disagree. I have argued this point previously for quite a length of time, and I completely disagree with you, Ko. You don't need dice to produce drama, and you don't need dice to have your characters fail. You have to set up the events.
I think they help.
I would disagree.
What do you mean they help?
Point.
They make it easy.
well in if you look at
easy for you.
if you look at real life, if you look at real life to an extent, there are easy things you can fail at, and there are difficult things you can succeed at. You can't necessarily predict the outcomes of every action based on your capabilities. There are random things. There are real life events where a 60-kilogram woman punches out someone who's a built guy over just under 2 meters and kills them in a single punch. These things happen, and you can't necessarily predict those outcomes because of their relative capabilities.
Yes, but they also make for a shitty narrative.
No, they can make for great narratives. It can be about overcoming impossible struggle, that narrative, or being crushed by someone so far beyond your capabilities, or being crushed by someone far below your capabilities. There are interesting narratives to be found
So
in
it's
that.
boring.
How is that a good narrative?
I
Because
think
you rolled your dice for a 10 fighting against a child, or a child rolled 100 fighting against you and got a fucking critical success, you fucking lost the game or got a great injury or whatever. How is it good? What's good? I don't understand it for the life of mine. How is it any good?
How is it any good to have unpredictable outcomes, is your question?
It's not good to have unpredictable outcomes. The QM has to set up his outcomes properly, so the players know if they are able or not able to win them.
Okay,
if they are able. Let me finish, please, Alerni. The possible what's it called? I forgot the word. Sorry. Encounters, right? You have to set up your encounters so that when the main character meets with them, The players have some at least vague idea what they are dealing with. You don't just throw a random shit on the road.
Well, you can give them you can have them assess their chances, and have the outcome be ultimately unpredictable.
Why?
Well, because it includes an element of risk management. It's not just about can I succeed at this or fail.
For the QM, right? Instead of just fucking constantly writing shit out of your mind and having like several sets of rails to go down for your players.
I'm going to go back to my original argument with what Ko was saying. One, I don't think you necessarily need bad things happening to have an engaging story. I think that's a false premise. But two, the issue I take here is where you say that it absolves the QM from blame. If you set up a situation where a bad thing happening is resulting in blame, you are failing as a QM.
This I agree with. This I completely agree with.
Here's the thing. I tend to have basically a bunch of shitters in my chat because I have a lot of people in my chat,
and because you run Anonkun.
And because I'm running and because I'm running a quest, so it's full of shitters, and the biggest shitter of them all is me. So when bad things happen, it should be clear why it happened. And you could do that narratively of, you're an 8-year-old child and you voted to fist fight a bear. Of course it was going to end badly. Or narratively, you wanted the bad thing to happen, but you manipulated it into happening with dice. Dice are not random, by the way. It is an illusion of randomness because the mechanics are all designed by you, the QM. You have set the system up. You've set the DCs. You might have hidden modifiers. You should pretty much always know the outcome of a dice roll before it happens because you set up the system. It's just a narrative tool to prop up whatever you want. It's an illusion.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that. That's basic GM.
Yep.
Yes. Also, one thing I would like to touch on.
You decided.
Earlier, it was mentioning rolling hundreds and crits and all of that. I would say that systems should avoid that kind of thing because it does make things a bit too swingy, and people will expect things to go way out of control if you do get a crit in a system that has crits, and just is a fucking mess.
Sure, it's very questionable. Yeah,
crit failures and crit successes are inherently stupid. I do like the idea of complications and benefits where, if you roll really well, you might succeed better if you would have succeeded at the roll anyway. And if you roll really poorly, you'll fail worse. But I don't think rolling a specific number. I don't think
fate that does the yes and yes but no system, right? Or it's if you roll really well, you get something yes and.
Yes, it's a yes and system. So there's a new Conan RPG out, Adventures in an Age Untold, which I believe abbreviates to IID or something like that. You can't acronymize it. And they use a 2d20 system. And if you roll a 20, even if you succeed, because it's a roll-o system, there's a complication. So something bad happens in addition. So you hit the guy, but then you pull a muscle or something. I don't know.
Well,
I haven't actually read all this.
I have a comment about your statement that QMs should always know the outcomes of their dice. What about deliberately not knowing the outcomes of your dice? Like setting yourself up for not knowing the future.
You
should communicate that to your players that you're in this kind of quest.
I would say that's very difficult because at the end of the day, you wrote the system and you set the difficulty for the encounter.
Well, let me give an example.
Well, there might be
you can promise to rigidly adhere to whatever comes out of the dice rolls, but ultimately it's still your choice whether.
Well, I mean, what I'm saying is you choose, of course, you choose how everything is going to go, but you deliberately you create a specific situation where dice decide, or whatever decides. Where you take the power away from yourself. I have an example.
Like it's a coin flip.
I I have an example of this which I've used several times, and because E is here every time, he's either not listened to me every time, or he's going to say, "Oh fuck, not this again." But there's a story called Worm, which I know you've read, Cole, because
Yeah, you fucking
Oh
showed him
fuck!
a
Not this
one.
again.
Jesus Christ.
I'm a fan.
Really just shows what sort of person you
I know-
are and
I
why
know
no one
exactly what
should
you're-
ever fucking listen to you.
But
You
I haven't heard
spew all
this.
this advice
Oh.
and you have an authoritative tone and
Yeah.
then you fucking bring a worm.
yeah,
Yeah,
no, but
That
what
should really just
what-
indicate to
what-
people the
I'm gonna mute.
dozen
I'm
people
gonna
who
say it
listen to this.
anyway.
Never.
Yeah.
Never listen to any advice.
Okay, just be quick then.
Yeah.
Make it
So
short. So
in
these
any
two
case,
artists don't
yeah.
power-
Worm had a
You're
thing.
just dragging it out by telling him to be quick.
Worm
That's fine.
Worm set up an entire setting with a city and like 100 characters and so on, and then he rolled a d4, and on every
shit the bed.
he rolled 100 d4s, and for every one that came up, he killed a character. He did this for the main character as well, and he ran with the result.
He says he ran with the result.
Well,
That sounds pointless and masturbatory.
I mean, again, at the end of the day,
And I
You
know
didn't see the
something
dice
about
roll,
pointless
so
masturbatory
you-
activity, and that sounds like it.
It is fucking
I-
Worm after all.
I
Yeah,
don't.
true.
I don't. Why?
well, it was
I don't
mean-
really.
because
Okay,
He's running a dark superhero
again,
story with
that's
all
sort
these
of-
characters.
that's right. That's actually
Bring it
writing
back to
advice that I've heard
if you
before.
if you wanna run something that is beholden entirely to the dice, and you are going to rigidly adhere to the system, and you are not going to adapt it, do so. Make sure people know it. But don't have players expect things to make sense or
Yeah.
you know come out
Well,
okay for them.
Don't try to write
Make
the narrative
sure-
this way.
People know that you are just dicing the whole lot.
The
That's
thing is, I've heard something like that where you roll the dice. I've heard things like that as writing advice in general before, and it's to sort of force yourself to consider alternative scenarios that you wouldn't normally consider. You know, logically, the story would lead here, but then this other thing happens, and now you have to make that make sense within the narrative. You have to think of all these things that you never thought of before. That can be interesting from a storytelling perspective.
that was
It
my
can be
point.
interesting, but
Can be, but-
it could also be a fucking mess.
Yes, it can also be a
Fucking
disaster,
mess.
but
It could
again,
be
I
a
think that
fucking
depends on the
mess.
skill of
And
the writer.
the thing with
Anything.
writing quests is you're doing it in the moment. You don't have that much leeway in terms of exploring whether or not this is going to be a fucking mess. So yeah,
you can
maybe
set up.
maybe
you can set up
we were
your
saying take
messes,
the safe
your overarching
option,
messes.
but you don't have the leeway to be risky sometimes.
No,
I actually have a big problem with systems and quests, with number systems. If it's a bad system where the players can't progress and can't affect the outcomes of their dice very well, it's a shitty system because the players don't really have that much input into it, and it just leads to randomness. But okay, if you're running this kind of quest, it might be good, but whatever, it doesn't give you a good story most of the time. And if the players are able to affect the outcomes of their dice by, I don't know, investing in some kind of skills or some kind of stats or whatever, it usually very quickly leads to power creep. You know, where the main character becomes stronger and stronger and more and better and whatever. And with time, every kind of challenge becomes an old challenge. It's easy because you don't have such a powerful main character that the players train so well, and then that they invested so much in that it doesn't make sense for the challenges that they met before to be difficult for them now, to be any challenge at all. So
Yeah, I mean-
you have to constantly wrap up the difficulty level, but in the end it doesn't change anything. So it doesn't change. You just wrap up the DCs by the same margin that the players up the stats. So what's the point? The players don't feel it either because the range of success is the same.
Well, that's why you come up with a spend to fucking win system like banished quests, and that way once the quest progresses to a certain certain point, they can just win every DC, and that's how they tell they pass every DC, I should say.
Except for
And that's how they
when
tell
they roll
progress.
3 1s. Except for when they roll 3 1s.
Yeah,
and
and they accidentally impregnate a character and cock a waifu. And what was the other
So
thing?
why have DCs anyway then? Why not just try it?
Because quests came from tabletop games, and people like having DCs in them because they play tabletop games. And they want to play essentially tabletop games on the internet, but with a lot of people playing one character.
There's
And
that,
it's an easy form of conflict resolution. Like, what the fuck else are you going to do for combat? Rock, paper, scissors? Fuck off. That's a shit system.
That has been done, and yes, it is shit.
Yes, I know. That's why I said it's shit.
Who did that? Cross Clash or something? No, yeah, Double Cross. That was the one.
Yeah, it was Double Cross, and then the asshole's other failed fantasy quest that I can't remember the name of. And then it's Raykuza quests do it as well.
Raykuza does it kind of. I was actually going to bring that up because I was actually going to bring that up at some point, but it's an interesting system from what I remember of it. But at the same time, it's kind of, you don't know exactly what you're doing since the things are somewhat obfuscated. So while there was that one common example that caused a huge shitstorm in Q2G back when it was still on TG, where they lost an arm because they picked one stupid option. I remember that. That option at the time seemed like a reasonable option, but then if you were to read back, it was clear that if you weren't in the moment, it was fucking stupid. So it was a loss because the players were stupid, but at the same time, it was just something that came from the mechanics, and you could blame the mechanics for, which led back to what Ko was saying earlier about how it was something you could blame not entirely on the QM. So yeah, I want to bring that up.
Fundamentally, it is still entirely on the QM because the QM interprets the mechanics.
Yeah.
Right.
But
like,
it's a very cheap way to try and avoid blame, which shouldn't really be important anyway, because
and it really fucking get it.
I mean that's the thing is, you know, say you're having, you know, the fight and the player, and you want the players to win, and you've set up the odds so that the players should win the fight, and they just roll like shit repeatedly. Well, you just have them suffer wounds but not lose the fight until they stop rolling shittily, and then they win.
Or you have them lose the fight, like there's one famous Princess Guard quest.
Let's not talk about the duel. Please, let's
talk about Princess Guard quest.
Please, let's no talk
It's a
about
perfect example of sticking too rigidly to the results of your dice.
I would like to suggest we actually cycle back to the original discussion topic, which was character generation.
Yeah, I actually agree. Speaking about that, what do you think is the best way to structure your story if you are doing a character generation? I'd say that it's best to set up an overarching background story where shit happens no matter what the main character does, and then try to see what can you fit into this story. So, and to give the players a couple options, like are you, I don't know, a mage that came on this, that sits in this town, or a warrior that sits over there, and where can you progress from there? Imagine at least in some broad strokes what can happen potentially, and how can the main character fit into the overarching story.
I like that as a way of sort of, I treat character generation as not generation, is I think the QM should show up to the quest with the character, because at the end of the day, that's sort of what the quest is about. You know, you've got a bunch of people showing up to play one guy. The quest should be about that one guy or girl. So you should show up with a completed character concept and use the character generation to just introduce that character. So you say, well, where is this character from? And you give them, 4 options, and they pick one. You use, say your character's Han Solo, who I think we're all familiar with. You give your character a bunch of Star Wars planets to pick from, and you talk about how Han Solo acts in that planet. Either they're fitting in or they're not fitting in. Because it's a criminal planet, he would fit in great, or it's a very orderly planet and he wouldn't fit in at all. You've already showed up with the character.
I
You're
disagree.
just slowly introducing him to to the players.
I disagree, though. I think that's something that can work pretty good, but there is another alternative, and that's to do something like what Banished Quest did, and that's to have a couple of options and strongly establish a character based on those options very quickly.
I think you can do that. That's fine. I would also say that one of the things that is pretty much always perfectly fine to have up for character vote is the style of character. But what I mean by that is, say the character is going to kill people. Well, how do they kill them? Do they do it with a knife or a gun or a rocket launcher or a sniper rifle or a laser weapon or whatever? I think you can have players pick those mechanical aspects. Those are great things for them to insert themselves into.
Rather than having an option specifically for that, you should have an event. You should have an event where they are killing somebody, and give them a choice of how they're going to do it, and establish the character based on what they choose.
Yeah, but we already talked about that. Yes, you intertwine your character generation with the story.
Yes,
exactly.
I don't think you should. I don't think you should ever have in character generation just an option of picking what you are. I think it should always be an option of what you're doing, because an action carries more emotional weight and will get the players more involved.
Well, you can make leave who someone is ambiguous to start with, and have that based very strongly on what actions they choose in the very first one or two updates.
Sure.
Yes, I would say go even further than 1 or 2 updates. I would say like the first 5 or 6, because then it isn't clearly everything is character generation. It spreads it out, and it just makes it feel more like acting in character, I suppose, because it just slowly all builds into your final character.
What I meant is that you have it more strongly in the first 2 updates, and then you have it slightly softer in the next 3 updates, and then you have it slightly softer in the next few updates, and you continue like that until the character is fully established.
That reminds me of how Majesty Rising did it, where they introduced the character. Imperial Count introduced the character, and it started off sort of broad strokes about who and what they were, and then got into specifics of how their past had worked and what their goals were and that sort of thing. But I'd like to point out that you're not set in stone at the beginning of the quest as to how your character acts. You can have, character arcs, and players will define how the character acts through polls. A great example that I can think of is Rise of the Tomb King by Delacroix.
What I meant is that yes, they establish how the character acts through polls, but how they act should also establish their history to an extent. If the history is completely set in stone, then there isn't a lot of space for the players to choose how they want to interact with the world.
That's fair.
Yeah. I mean, if you set stuff too firmly in stone, you end up with the inevitable arguments of what the players want to do versus what is in character.
Yeah, exactly. If you let them set the character, you will always have players that act in character because they decided what is in character earlier in the quest.
I'll actually argue that point.
The problem is, you talk.
I firmly disagree with that point, because the false assumption there is that you have the same players at your follow-up session as you did at CareGen.
Exactly what I was going to say, yeah. Players come and go, and you should never expect to have the same people, especially if a quest carries on for too long.
Sure, but you have to also consider that who is going to join your quest is to an extent going to be based upon what the character did in the first few threads. Like, they're going to decide if they're going to keep reading the quest based on the decisions made there.
That is true, but at the same time, they may have a very different idea of what was done in mind compared to what the original people had. So while they may choose roughly the same actions, they will take them for varying different reasons, and
Yeah.
that may cause a big swing in how the character acts, even if it doesn't seem so at
You-
first.
I,
sort of
su-
got the
I
benefit
suppose
of
that's true,
retrospective
but I
logic
don't think
versus
that
heat of the moment.
is that actually a problem which you can resolve?
Probably not, unless you were someone that filtered everything through how the character acted already. But that is for a different type of quest entirely, I would say.
It's something you can resolve on Akon with crossing out options and establishing that you will cross out options that are explicitly out of character.
So railroading, you mean?
Exactly.
Then implicitly, everything you don't cross out is in character to a degree.
And
Yeah.
then you're going to get people
Yep.
submitting increasingly shitposty poll
Ban them.
options.
Just ban them. Just ban
Well,
them.
then they're
Ban
going to
them.
reset their IPs and come back a moment later.
Ban them again.
Well, then you ban them again and delete their post again. It's
I suppose
a
that's-
fun cycle.
I
that
mean,
everyone loves.
honestly, as far as Akon goes, getting shitposty write-ins that are meant to be crossed out is part of the fun, in my opinion, because that's just another way for you to banter and interact with your players.
Of course, you're a fucking shitposter. Of course you love it.
Of course, I love shitposts.
Also a ban.
But the thing is, I'm a shitposter who likes to try and also write a serious narrative at the same time. So I'm just constantly fucking myself.
I wouldn't know. I've literally never read
No,
one of your quests
feeling
except for
it.
like 2 updates of Skullmance. So yeah.
I'm pretty
Try
sure-
Celtic Quest. It's like actually good as opposed to just being bad.
No.
Pretty sure
No,
I've
it's
looked
not.
at pretty much everything you've done and said, nope, this is not for me.
I
vaguely
probably won't
trust
read it,
Blip,
but I'll
so
keep
yeah.
that in mind.
You've probably done a pretty good job of communicating of what things are.
Good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Celtic Quest, by the way, is diceless.
So it's
I
even
don't-
worse then.
I don't actually like that. I've decided I don't actually like the diceless way that it's run, but that's getting very sidetracked. As far as character gen goes, one of the reasons that I think it's important for the QM to show up with a character is because the QM knows that they will like to write that character. One of the big problems that a lot of quests have is QMs stop writing. They get bored. They don't want to do it anymore. Shit, I haven't updated in months.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
and
think that's
yeah, QMs get bored, and you should ideally be invested in your characters and your story. If you leave character gen up to your audience, even if you're okay with what they've picked, you might not love it. And if you
Well,
don't love it, you're
that's-
less likely to keep writing it.
Well, what if you...
And that's ultimately worse for everyone.
That's why you don't do open character generation. That's why you do curated, integrated character generation.
Yep.
Because
Unless you
you
want to
put the
run it through
options
different
there.
documents.
you should be into those characters.
I think it's fine to do sort of advanced polling where, you run a poll as to, hey, these are like, the 3 characters that I'm interested in. I'm going to build a quest for them a month from now. What are people more interested in? I think that's fine.
I would honestly say even in Quest, just like the first update, just make it a general overview and then character select. Character select is a lot better than character generation simply because then you already have the character in mind. But it lets people be
I don't
involved.
think you do it in Quest. I think you do it in think you do it in like a topic or something. Because the issue is if you do it in Quest, then that means when I'm a new reader and I click on your quest, the first thing that I see is this sort of boring mechanical discussion about which character you're picking, as opposed to something interesting happening. And I'm more likely to just tab out.
I do suppose this is just a change because I'm used to things on TG and Quest over things on Anonkun. So it is a difference where you would have to do it in Quest to what I'm used to.
Okay.
Say the danger with doing it in a topic is you poll people for what they'd be more interested in, and then make the quest a month later, and those people aren't around.
No, they're not. But if you leave it up, you'll get a generalized response of what the website's feeling. I mean, to give a rather famous example, that's how Bioweapon Quest started. This
Fuck
Vexus.
Bioweapon.
fuck it.
Fuck Bioweapon. Fuck Bioweapon.
Fuck it.
Yeah, Vexus
Fuck
ran a
it.
poll. Are you done? Vexus ran a poll. Nobody said fuck Bioweapon. Nice. Vexus ran a poll, and
Fuck
what
BioWare.
do you want to hear? And it was like magical girl rape quest, something about elves. There was a couple of other options. I don't remember it all. But
All those sound fucking terrible.
all
Well,
the
it
options
had a
were
terrible
terrible.
result.
It's
though.
the non-conquesting.
All the options were terrible, and bioweapon was terrible, but it was also great.
It wasn't great.
No.
It was
It
fucking
wasn't
awful.
great. It wasn't great in any respect. Even the fucking sex
So
scenes.
what was
weren't
wrong
that
with
good.
Bioweapon Quest? I only know the one that
Harems.
ran on TV.
Everything.
So fucking much.
I think we are talking about the one on Anonkun, and I guess I like it because it hit most of my fetishes. Which I
What
don't
are
know.
those?
You're a
Talk about it on this
disgusting
podcast.
fucking human being.
What are those?
It hit
fetishes?
a ton of my fetishes, and it was still fucking awful.
I'd still say, anyway, the danger of doing it that way is that you maybe get an overview of what the site as a whole is feeling, but that still doesn't tell you what your players are feeling. Also, if you leave it open long enough to get a site-wide overview, you're leaving it open long enough for 1,000 proxies to be deployed there.
Do proxies
I suppose
actually
another way you could do-
increasing mount gradually?
I suppose another thing, a way you could do it on Anonkun would be to make the quest early, like a week or so early, and just throw it up as a topic in that quest, and just have your first update be pointing to the quest and telling people to pick which they preferred, and then just get rid of that update when you actually start the quest.
Yeah, that's reasonable. I mean, that's actually making use of some of the helpful features Anonkun has.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, I think that
This is actually one of the reasons why it's better than QST. Because there is no time limit how much time your quest can be there, and it will still appear as if it was new if you just leave it there for like half a year.
I mean,
There is no
QSD is just
difference.
so you could have a thread up like that for a week. Just it's not.
But then it
how it's
actually
done,
looks
so-
dead.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, everything else on the board looks dead. So
That's the whole. Yeah, exactly. Everything
think-
looks dead.
I think the problem is,
Well, everything is dead.
I think
It doesn't just
when it
all
comes
look
to
that's
actually
not
is
quite
dead.
true.
when it
Well, almost.
when it comes to polls and
It's
topics,
just that
I
most
think
quests are slow as fuck.
I think when it comes to polls and topics, it's not great, but it's better than starting your fucking thread with a poll. That's worse in a lot
Yeah,
of ways.
true. Yeah, you need to start with an update that, preferably in universe, in flow.
Yeah, no
Communicates
meta,
with-
no,
Gives
don't
your
open with
players
only
a
meta.
basic understanding of what you're doing.
Yeah, open with an
Yeah.
update.
Actually, I have a question for you. How much of a character's backstory, the main character's backstory, I mean, is it better to include in the opening post, and how much and when do you have to give it to the players?
Only what's
Like, you can-
directly relevant, and
Yeah.
only when it comes up.
Yeah,
I
I
fully
agree
agree
with
with that.
E.
Yeah,
That's
I
pretty much.
I'm going to
easiest
quote a
answer.
real writer. Every sentence should either reveal character or advance the action. That's Kurt Vonnegut. So there's my answer for backstory is if it's not informing me of a key aspect of the character or it's not advancing the current plot, I don't give a shit.
I would append a third thing to that and deploy an amusing pun, because that is the most important thing to do in
Well,
writing.
I think
Wait,
Kurt
puns
Von-
aren't the action?
Puns are not the action, no.
I do think actually
No,
Kurt
no,
Vonnegut
you're
wrote
wrong.
according to
They-
that
they-
principle.
Transcend action.
He liked
It's
the
really
pun.
nice how you just shout at everyone until they shut up, even if they're in the middle of a discussion, Spots.
Well, I've said that that's how you're supposed to be on this podcast, but nobody ever listens. Everybody's
Yeah,
too
but you just
polite.
kind
With
of
the
cut
trick
in
bombs.
before multiple people are done. I mean, it's fine when it's just a one person and they're going on a bit, but come on, man, you're kind of doing it a bit much.
Yeah, please calm down. Go, please don't stop
I'm
typing.
perfectly calm.
Oh shit, I'm sorry.
There's no one in the house at the moment, so I'm taking advantage of that fact to script.
Just shout at
that's good.
autists on the internet.
Yeah.
So I apologize for the keyboard typing.
I
I
don't think
recently
anyone
changed-
actually cares, and this podcast is so low quality. It's not it's not
Actually,
really going to impact on me.
I recently got a
podcast.
new high quality desktop microphone. To
That's
replace
just
my
what you
shitty
wanted to
headset.
talk about, isn't it? You didn't
Oh,
want to
yeah.
apologize to your
You know,
keyboard. You just wanted to
I'm
brag about your
sponsored by
microphone.
Blue. I'm actually sponsored by Blue Yeti, so I'm required to play this at least once every hour. It's a wonderful headset, or freestanding desk mic. It's USB, wonderful device.
Oh yeah, mine is great too.
Shit post aside, it's like right next to my mechanical keyboard, and I'm not used to people being able to hear me type. So sorry about that.
I haven't actually heard you type until just then. I've heard Alerni type.
No, you haven't heard me. I use push to
Well,
talk.
then it's just been Cole.
Yeah, it's just been me the entire time. I keep trying to mute my mic, but I'm forgetting.
You
Oh,
could
Yeah,
okay.
just
certainly talk,
using
though.
push to talk.
Like, let's move on. Another
No.
question I wanted to ask you: what do you think about quests that are basically constant character generation, like waifu quests, like designated waifu quests,
Oh, you mean just coming up with... Oh, wait, designated waifu quest. What the fuck is
like
that?
self-aware, for example? The
Oh, so actually
unique
waifu quest, not designated. I've never fucking
Oh,
heard of designated.
not designated. What's it?
So just waifu.
Okay,
It was just waifu quest.
it is a waifu quest, but it is a single waifu quest. Like it's a waifu
No, you
quest
mean
for one
on
waifu
TV,
where you
right?
create your waifu.
By trend.
Okay.
Or do you mean
Predetermined,
something
haven't-
yes,
I
I
haven't
made
read the
a brain
quest,
fart. I did a
so
brain fart, sorry.
I'm going to need more
Predetermined.
what you mean by constant character generation.
Like you have basically a blank slate, or almost a blank slate, and you create your waifu as you go. Or a waifu in this,
that thing.
in this specific instance. It can be any character, but you create it as you go, and it's constantly progressing and changing. You basically start with nothing at all, and as the quest is progressing, you are making a new character from zero.
I think we understand. What's your question?
What do you think about that?
What do we think in general? Yeah, okay, sure. Cole, you were saying...
I think that sort of reminds me of Blank Slate by, I believe that was Story.
That was story
Yeah,
area.
pretty much.
I don't know. Constant character generation feels weird to me. It tends to make characters feel sort of flat and shallow because I control, or as a player, I would be controlling every aspect of them, and that's just weird. I don't think players should have control of every aspect of characters.
Yeah, I feel like if a character is constantly being created, then they don't have any character to go with anyways. So they don't feel like a character, I suppose.
Yes, that's what I'm getting.
I agree completely. Yes.
Well, there is a thing there. As you go, the traits you created at the beginning start to play an effect in your further creation. So it's not just a blank slate sometime later. You add more layers to the character, but the previous layers don't disappear. They blend in with the new layers and the new traits.
How is that different than characters just leveling up in the traditional sense and gaining new traits and going through arcs? I mean, in that sense, everyone's a character that's constantly being generated.
In a sense, yes, but here you start with a blank slate. Like you are not the blank slate. You're creating a blank slate from the actions of your main character.
So you're talking about quests where you're taking the role of a mentor and you are molding someone into something.
Yes, pretty much. You are raising a child, for example, something like that.
Possibly because those are almost always waifu quests. I find them creepy and rapey.
Yep.
I can actually agree with that.
I have problems with things being creepy and rapey.
See, I don't have problems
don't,
with them normally, but yeah, in that case, fuck it.
It's just autistic. I'll say autistic.
That's a better word. Yeah. Yes.
Want to hear something interesting? The players in self-aware barely build their character, build their waifu. They left most of the creation to the waifu itself. Like they, when she asks them, "What should I be?" they answered, "Be yourself."
Just
And
be
that,
yourself,
for me,
man.
at least, was quite interesting. They said to a blank slate, to a nothing, to a zero, be yourself.
So they're being
and find your
contrarian
own
and not
way.
playing the quest.
Yeah.
But the character turned out to be quite interesting. Well, entertaining, not really interesting, but entertaining at least.
So she was your waifu then, that's it.
That-
Just one more quest where you can recreate this waifu.
Actually, I like to add one thing. I would be all over a fucking Princess Maker quest. Just give me a Princess Maker quest. Let me raise a daughter. I want it.
And then fuck her, or
No, you do not
Well,
fuck
yeah, of course.
You do not fuck your daughter.
Made for lewds.
No, you just raise her, and then
you can do that.
watch her become a terrible person because you're a
One of
fucking
them anyway.
terrible person.
I mean, I remember Loner by City Panic, where it was basically a constant care gen quest of your girlfriend, and it was just it got creepier and creepier and rapier and rapier.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I feel like criticizing something as rapey would be deeply.
Oh yeah, you
on
run
my part.
Scholomance. That's a bit hypocritical.
I mean, Scholomance has some creepy rape aspects, and they're creepy and rapey and bad, and they're supposed to be.
Yeah, it's supposed to be creepy, not arousing.
Yes, which is what those other things try to do, and they just come off
And
as
they're trying
really
to be arousing.
fucking off.
but
Yeah.
I mean,
Hesitant,
complaining about
yeah.
rapey and liking bioweapon as like is
What-
very hypocritical.
But bioweapon is a different sort of rapey, where it's just sort of like
He's going
It's
with
hentai
physical
rape.
rape.
What?
He doesn't
It's
like
his
rape.
hentai
physical
rapey, not
rape,
Twilight.
and it's mind
bioweapon
control
is
rape.
bioweapon is like ridiculous fantasy rape, where it's so over the top that it's not even.
It's rape from hentai, not
Bi-
rape from
and-
yeah,
fucking.
where
Bioweapon-
it's fantasy rape now. Whereas
it's-
like
It's
this
hentai, not 50
emotional
Shades of Grey.
the emotional manipulation rape thing, that's very common and actually happens, and that's why that's creepy.
Bioweapon is just rape where they smell you and then they want your dick. That's all. Because that is all the fucking quest was, and fuck it.
Plus Musk,
It also had emotional manipulation, right? Like quite
yes,
a lot
and
of it.
which was the shittiest part of the quest, and the quest had a lot of
But
shitty
it
parts.
was all of it.
He eventually started removing all of the plus Musk write-ins because he got sick of that.
I think there may be people that are totally suffering PTSD over bioweapons, so let's not talk about it anymore because fuck bioweapon.
Like the strongest of memes.
Yeah.
Bioweapon did have some great memes.
But
Like,
I
Musk
I
is the greatest.
actually
the
think
strongest
the
of it.
emotional manipulation, rape stuff is quite interesting. Not from a porn perspective,
Oh
but
yeah, of
just
course you do. For
but from a
fuck's sake.
storytelling
fucking-
perspective.
From the point of view where it gets your dick hard, is that it?
No, from
I think
the story
Well,
perspective.
storytelling
Yeah, that's clearly.
If you
I've
wanna
used
look
it
at
in that
emotional
perspective.
Even the rape
manipulation,
capital of Europe, man.
No, it's from a point of view where that is the only way he could ever get anything, even in a quest.
if you want to look at shit about emotional manipulation and abuse, just go watch some shoujo anime.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Well,
go watch fucking
I
Amnesia.
do
Throw a girl
I
in a
do
cage.
watch
Put
shoujo
some
anime.
josei shit in your eyes, it'll be great.
Yeah, of course you do. What do you watch, Spots?
If I want to be emotionally abused, I just read
Can't come up
news
with
about my
one thing,
fucking
huh?
president.
I haven't watched in like 3 years, and it didn't have a great.
Yeah, there we
daily
go.
impact
Oh
on
yeah,
me.
I definitely watch. Oh, well, I haven't watched it in 3 years. Yeah, alright. Fine.
I read everything that's shit, and I watch a lot of things. Some things which are shit, but mostly I read.
Yeah,
You better have fucking
okay.
seen Amnesia. You better have seen Amnesia and Diabolic Lovers because they're
No.
both good.
No, I have shit there.
Diabolic Lovers is the one where she gets thrown into a pool in a cage, right?
Yeah,
mean
no,
neither
Cage
of
was
it?
Amnesia, Pool was Diabolic.
I see. Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting that I combine those two. I think I was thinking about ISIS Execution as well. Where they had all the people in the cage and they dumped it into a pool.
It's been a while since I've watched ISIS Execution videos.
They're
and,
usually
I think
really
that's a good
boring.
thing.
Yeah, they're all fucking
It's
boring.
okay.
They're over.
They occasionally do interesting things like the pool cage, or they had a toddler shoot a guy in like a ball pit recently. That was funny.
I mean, like,
Usually it's just.
I've watched children behead people.
Can we stop going full Anonkun now? This was a
Yeah,
good
I
podcast so
suppose
far.
we should talk about
Please
quests and not, ISIS.
No, that's
I guess.
you're talking about executions, huh?
I'm
your
already
favorite
on
way
enough
of
government
We're
watch
talking
lists.
in
about
general.
executions.
Overall,
Stop.
do you like classic beheadings, MMD?
Fuck you, yeah.
I guess speaking of ISIS, can a quest be too edgy?
Oh wait, you're Russian. Do you like?
Can a quest be too edgy? Yes.
Executed
Yeah.
It's very
by,
easy to be too edgy.
Yes,
of
firing
course,
squad?
of course it can be too edgy.
They can be too edgy, but I still want more a black comedy because fuck it, it was good, and fuck Chaos for fucking pussing out because it was good.
More of what?
A black
Black
comedy.
comedy.
Oh fuck!
If
black
you
comedy,
say a
that
black
was
comedy,
good
all I
shit.
think of is the Harry Potter fanfic.
No. It was really edgy shit using almost Fate Stay Night characters for some reason.
Yeah, it was
Like,
fucking
the
great.
main character was edgy Lancer, and then there was a paladin who was not Saber. She was getting mind broken, and then it was really good.
It was fucking great.
I had stopped
comedy
reading
is great.
quests under the time the Akun portion ran, so I never got to see that before he fucking deleted it.
Oh yeah, he couldn't
read
take it
it,
because he was too much of a fucking pussy.
And I read the
loser.
CG
And then
version.
someone ran a quest from
From
not
Blue's
Saber's perspective,
Blue,
and that immediately died after one
yeah,
thread,
which was a shame.
That was
because that was
that was
good
a
as well.
disappointment and a half.
Well, for
Ah.
those who haven't read Black Comedy, it's
You
based on a
mentioned.
D&D universe, I think, and the main character is a blackguard, and he fucking murders people and rapes them and shit like that. And
It's fucking
Yeah,
hilariously edgy, and it's genuinely funny as well.
it was too edgy
was
for
a
the
black
QM,
comedy.
so he dropped it.
It wasn't
It
even
was
that
amazing.
edgy, to be frank, but
Well,
Well,
it's edgy.
I mean,
The thing about
he's a pussy
thing
for
about
The thing
edgy
that
quest
upset
dropping
him was
it.
when he was talking about writing about the main character raping the orc while she was impaled on a spear.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
went too far for him or something.
Uh,
Come on.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's.
I think the thing about edgy quests is either they try to be serious and they're just
And they fail.
frankly disgusting, because like they're written well, or you get Mills in Westeros where it's just fucking ridiculous. Where literally the first page is fucking a
Literal
sheep.
art. Or will they drown a character for no reason?
I mean, Mills in Westeros
And then
is like one of the
gets
one of
mildly
the
upset
funniest.
about
It's one of the funniest things I've read in a long time, just because it's so dumb. But people who are trying to craft serious narratives that incorporate that level of edge are just it's just
Still love
bad.
that,
There's no
uh,
other word for it.
But that's outlived the original You Awaken Westeros.
Oh god,
Absolutely amazing.
that is impressive.
Which isn't much of an achievement, really, considering Trig picked it up after someone else dropped it. But
Yeah, that's true, but it's still amusing.
you feel anything? Feel this dead eye with anything, or are we done?
I don't know.
Um,
I want to ask Blip when will he run again.
Never.
Well, we have that's actually our last segment. Everybody who is an actual QM tells everybody when they're gonna run next. So let's start with from the top.
oh,
If you don't have any time, just say I don't have any fucking time, and you gotta deal with it. Alerni, you start. Are you ever gonna run your shit?
I don't know, maybe. I'm thinking about it. I'm working on mechanics and shit, so maybe? Who knows?
And Blip, you ever gonna run again? Or you can abstain if you want to. You don't have to answer.
I'm intending to run again, preferably within
Intending.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay.
But within 2 weeks, because let's be honest here. If I said within a week, we all know it wouldn't happen.
I've said 2 weeks every time someone's asked me. And
Which thing are you going to run, Blip?
What?
Which thing are you going to run?
Well, I still have to finish off the big old homo scene, so probably that. But I do actually want to do both of the currently not on hiatus quests within a reasonable amount of time.
Do you have any plans to actually come back to Phil's Mod Adventure? Ever at all?
It's one of those things where I'd like to, but every time I look at actually doing it, I psych myself out.
I can disencourage you further. That was your only quest I've actually read.
Oh, then it's never coming back. Yeah, fuck it.
Yeah, there we go.
It's also your best. It's also your best quest.
Yeah, I would agree.
So I've only
I
gone down.
ended up being the only one I've read.
Blue Dolly is the one that I read the most of, and yeah, I should catch up at some point, maybe.
You read like what, 2 updates?
No, I read up until the mansion, and like until you paused for like planning and shit because I just didn't feel like doing that.
Fair enough.
I'm useful.
Yeah. I'm bad at running long form quests. Who knew?
And you're running sometime next year, aren't you, E?
Maybe I've just been very depressed at late, so it's been hard
So-
to stick
Suicide
to working on
Pact,
the
you know-
ideas.
Drinking yourself into a stupor, crying about how shit your dialogue is.
Huh? What?
That happened once.
Oh no, I just got sad about it, and then I just stopped doing things. Also, because I was very depressed about other shit. But it wasn't
Well, I
just
mean-
my dialogue. Okay.
Here's the thing about running a quest. Literally, the worst case scenario is strangers on the internet don't like it. So you have
I'm
fucking
not
nothing to
anxious.
lose.
I just don't have any drive to do it. Just like I don't have any drive to do anything else in my life.
If I run, I'm gonna get shit every single week on this podcast. Every
Right.
Yes.
single fucking week.
It
It's gonna
deserves-
happen.
I will read your
be
quest
fair-
just so I can shit on you. I will do
To be
that.
fair, if you don't run, you're going to get shit every single week. on
Sure,
this
I mean,
podcast.
I'm going to run.
It's a universal concept.
I just have to
You're
bite
gonna
the
run,
pillow.
mate. You're gonna definitely. Yeah, you're gonna. Yeah.
I'm
When are you
I'm going
run?
to post my first
A
update.
few weeks ago.
I'm going to post my first update by Monday. And but I'm not
Okay, by Monday.
I'm not-
Definitely by Monday.
I'm not
Alright,
gonna
but I
I'm not
think it's
I'm not
fine.
gonna
I think it's
fucking
fine.
run because I don't dare, but
I'll
I'm gonna
mark it down
post
on
my
my
first update. And
You're gonna post it. Yeah, definitely. How many words have you got in it, mate?
I've got like 500.
500, maybe 4, closer to 200, maybe 100. Is that more realistic?
What the fuck are you even saying? No,
I'm being very clear. I'm sorry that you can't pass my
I'm
accent
sorry,
with your
guys.
subpar English. MMD. I have no idea what you're saying. Oh, you were mimicking me. I see.
I'm being very clean.
No, you're not.
MMD,
You
you are
sound
the
like
least
Russian,
you are the
so-
least comprehensible person here, and
Yeah,
he
don't
is
talk
one of the
shit,
most
don't talk
comprehensible.
I'm one of the. What are you talking about? I mumble constantly. I got a fucking Australian accent.
Well,
I slur everything I say.
Well, I can understand basically everything you say.
You still have the clearest
Well,
voice.
I can. Yeah, I
That's
do,
probably
but
true.
that doesn't really. mean much, yeah.
Alerni lisps constantly. I have my fucking Swedish accent, and I guess Ko is slightly more incomprehensible than you. I can barely hear Blip.
And you completely forgot
I'd
that
say
part.
Cole is the most comprehensible out.
Yeah,
of all
yeah,
us.
Code's pretty clear and
He's
very
got a
deaf.
generic American
He and
accent.
Bleep. He and Bleep, actually.
I'm from Kentucky.
I actually
That's
think
American,
I
yes.
actually think Blip is harder to understand than E, but Ko is definitely more.
What? Oh.
What?
Blip
Really?
fucks around with his microphone, so he's often very quiet. But other than that, he's perfectly understandable.
Well, I guess that's the problem.
fair enough.
I
Okay.
cannot
Well, we're
I
talking about
cannot-
voices, you cunt, not anything else.
Microphone
bring that
positioning
up.
is a component of this. It's fine.
I mean, my only problem is my sick as fuck Russian accent, but what can you do?
Sick as fuck, sure, yes.
I
Definitely.
can understand all of you.
So
I can mostly understand MMD. It's just sometimes he'll say something and it doesn't make any sense at all.
But
I mean,
Until
I
5
play
minutes later.
I
Dota.
find it's generally comprehensible. It sometimes just takes a second or two to actually
Yeah.
process.
well,
I play Dota. I'm used to hearing Russian.
of course you fucking play Dota, you shitposter.
I think it's
You
time to
expect me to
move.
play League?
I think it's time to
No,
move
I expect
on.
you to play something decent instead of
Wow,
fucking MOBA.
Spuds, don't kill discussion like this.
Well, Ko, when are you
It's
running?
not what you do on a podcast, man.
I'm going to run Celtic Quest 2 weeks from Sunday, and I'm going to
There
set a
you
live
are.
timer after this podcast.
Oh, you are.
Oh,
Is this going to be
It's
2
got
weeks
it
from
after
this Sunday, or
dedication.
2 weeks from next Sunday, or 2 weeks from Sunday, 2 weeks from now?
2 weeks from this Sunday. So let me pull up my calendar. That is, let's see here, February 19th.
Yeah, nah. No one's gonna run a quest that far into the future. No.
Yeah, no.
2 weeks is ridiculous.
Speaking of which, Suicide Pact, we need to get on that because, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I addressed that I'll run a quest at some point. So
At this point, I'm
tell
going to
you
be
what.
at this point, I'm going to be starting it before you do.
tell you what,
okay,
I'll
all
hitch
right.
my wagon to this suicide train.
Jesus
When,
Christ.
when you guys run, I will bring back Lude Lolly and FSA.
Wow. Okay.
Cool.
Well, I'm not running
Cool.
over then.
Oh, fuck you.
Spicy.
Great! That means I don't have to either.
Well,
you,
now
we're
I am
getting
going
on
to
this
run.
shit.
Well, I'll spite you either way.
That's the
See-
basis for that entire suicide pact, is that nobody actually
Yes, it
wants
is
to run.
entirely spite. It is entirely fucking spite.
Alcoholics
motivation.
Anonymous would describe this behavior as enabling.
Okay, that's fine. You got to enable someone to. I have no idea what I was going to say there. I'm very sorry.
Maybe you need to go to Alcoholics Anonymous.
So yeah, did you hear that, MMD? If you
maybe.
want Blip to bring back FSA, then just yell at Eid a lot.
Well,
Anyway,
I'm sure it'll work.
Anyway, I'll be posting another update in the following days. I will try to squeeze one, but I'm not sure if we'll be able to, because I have a lot of work these days. And after that, I will be taking
You've
on
got a lot of
smaller.
work. You said
Yes,
I've got a lot of fun these days, and I was mildly confused.
Whatever. After that, I will be taking on a small hiatus because I will be traveling for a bit. And as I'm the only responsible person in this podcast, I will be returning after that.
Less irresponsible and more autistic, given how long you've been translating this quest for.
Yeah.
and I'll be
Maybe not
post.
autistic,
I'll be
very
posting.
dedicated.
I'll be posting
Well,
my
all
first.
of you are autists here. You certainly are here, and it's not helping you very much.
I don't think autism competitions is the way to take this podcast.
Are you sure?
Oh, well, it'd be more fun than
Well,
actually.
no, it
discussing
would be
quests.
Spuds winning at something.
That's important.
I mean,
Oh, wow.
we've had
That's
guests.
great. That's great.
We have
Good
had
one.
guests that beat me to an extent. Honestly.
Oh yeah, we've
Oh,
got
yeah, we
Equal
have- we-
Wars
we-
and
yes.
Daki, and we had Boat on briefly, I think.
Ilvaris
We also had Hex on,
hands
so
down.
Oh yeah, Hex.
No, Ilvaris wins hands down.
Yeah, so I wouldn't even win at that. Speaking of
you
which,
win in
Well,
this
I mean,
situation.
Depending on which guest we got on.
The contest in this podcast. This
sure,
specific
that's
Yeah,
true enough.
definitely.
But in any case, speaking of failing at something, I'm going to be posting my first update by the 13th. I won't be running. I'll just shit it out, and you'll give me shit on the podcast and on the Discord and everywhere else probably in the thread too.
Will there be character descriptions?
Hopefully you drop the quest.
Will
Honestly,
there be character descriptions?
honestly, there will probably be one character description.
You're gonna use dice to resolve conflict?
There's not going to be any conflict in the first update.
I mean, in general.
Well, I've been thinking about doing a sort of complication or positive thing dice system, but I'm not quite sure yet. I might not.
So you don't have a dice system, and you're gonna be running your first update in 2 dice.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I'm going to be using dice situationally. I'm not going to have a consistent dice system, I think.
Just have players roll
Okay.
d20s and say that their rolls influence the narrative.
Just have
and
them
just
roll
fucking ignore it.
whatever and take whatever results you feel like. And they really just let them roll dice all the time. And if you feel like taking any one of those rolls, you can do it.
Will there be images?
There will not be a single image. I won't even use
Not one.
I will not even use the image that is supposed to open up the
No cover
thing.
image.
The cover image.
Not even a header image or.
I mean, if you don't pick your own banner, you're just gonna have gray kittens, which are adorable, but
Well,
Yeah, they really don't help stand out.
it would be somewhat suitable. I mean, it would probably be better with grey puppies, but whatever. Fuck it.
Grey is bland as your question.
Sure. And I think that's it for the podcast. You can stay for the after show. We're going to be unmuting everybody, but the recording will be ending
When?
now.